Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I am your host, Mary Zarnecki, and today I am so excited to introduce you not only to my guest expert, but my good friend, Kate Gilbert. If you do not know Kate, she is an action-oriented business coach, and her clients affectionately have dubbed her a hand holder slash butt kicker. Today, we are going to be getting into some things that I know people in this community have been asking for a long time, which is, Mary, how the heck do I do social media without driving myself absolutely crazy or sinking into a deep depression? So if that is something you've been challenged by in the past, whether you're working for someone else's brand or you're building your own, this is the episode for you. So welcome, Kate. So happy to have you here on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So I know there are going to be people watching and listening to our episode today who know you well, who just can't wait to gather more gold nuggets from you. But I know some people may be meeting you for the first time. So for those who aren't as familiar with you, can you tell us just a little bit about who you work with and the problem you solve?
I mostly work with women or people from the LGBTQIA community, and I help them build businesses they love. And a lot of the times that just means like helping people make decisions and get things done.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about making some decisions today. So now I know one of the things I want to dig into are some of the gold nuggets that you share in your new book. So you've got a new book called Social Media Group Therapy. First of all, just tell us a little bit about why that name, why Social Media Group Therapy.
I run a group program that's called 30 Day Social Sprint. And I also do it in the context of VIP days. And as I was preparing the course, I was thinking something is missing here. I was afraid I wasn't going to somehow solve the problem. And I realized that the real problem was the way people feel and think about social media, not necessarily the act of posting. It's all the reactions we have to getting crickets on a post or whatever like that. So I developed a workshop called Social Media Group Therapy. And now I've taken that plus some other materials and put them together into a book.
Amazing. And I know you and I have talked about this, so we're letting people in a little bit on our private conversation. But you and I both work with private clients and develop strategies and give people plans for their business and growing their brands. But I know both of you and I have bonded over the fact that I gave them the plan. Why didn't they follow the plan? So tell me a little bit about what you're hearing from people when it comes to social media and not following the plan, even when you've given them the step by step.
Mostly I hear people like, oh, they say I have to post 3 reels a week. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't have time for that. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I don't have time for that either. I'm not posting 3 reels a week. Yeah. So I really work with people to think about what are you actually making your social media results mean? And sometimes people are so focused on, I got 8 likes. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, cool. It does that. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's a good number for you. And so I sometimes I think if you walk down the street and 8 people were like, hey, good job, you'd be like, wow, I did a really good job. 8 people liking your post, you're like, that's nothing. And it doesn't actually necessarily mean anything because there are so many people who are just not interacting with any post, not just yours. And there are so many times that I've had somebody message me, DM me, or email me saying, hey, Kate, when are you running Sprint again? Or I think I need you. And sometimes I'm literally like, who are you? Like I've never seen you interact with a post of mine. We've never had a conversation. There are just so many lurkers. And I've had tons of people tell me, yeah, I don't like people's posts either. I don't interact with people's posts. And I'm like, okay, then why are you upset when people don't interact with yours? But also the reality is I would rather have a smaller following of people who were like really interacting with me, really bonded with me, who were willing to pay me money than millions of followers who just don't give a crap. And actually in the book and in my course, I don't name names, but this is a true story. Okay. There was a woman who was an influencer and she had 2.6 million followers and she wanted to start a clothing line. 2.6 million followers. I don't have that. I don't think you have that. I don't think you and me together have that. But I'm not even sure all of my friends and me together have that. but she just had to sell 36 t-shirts to place an initial order. She could not sell 36 t-shirts. If I remember the number correctly, that's 1 in 72,000 people who followed her had to buy a t-shirt. Like, I think I could sell 36 t-shirts. So I'm like, you can't look at other people's numbers. Like, you can't look at her following and her post with like thousands of likes on it and automatically assume she's super successful and I have very few. And that means I can't be successful, because it really doesn't mean that at all.
You bring up a really good point, and I think a trap that people fall into of this, first of all, measuring my success against someone else's.
Sure.
We don't know someone else's full story, first of all, like you said, but also really not taking the opportunity to, before we start running off and doing, to really take the moment to say, okay, but what am I actually trying to accomplish? What is success for me? Is success getting followers, or is
Sure.
it getting sales or leads to my email list or clicks to my website? What is success from the energy, effort, money, time I'm pouring into this activity, whether that's social media or any other activity? So
Yeah.
when you're working with people, and in the book, maybe you talk about this, but how do you start coaching people on that? When you're working with people who maybe have skipped that step, how do you bring them back to asking the right questions? What questions do people need to start with?
One of the very foundation things I do, and this is also included in the book in the brief form, although honestly, I think this needs to be its own book too. But I have people write a manifesto when they start working with me. And I use the word manifesto really purposefully. Every company has their mission statement saying our floor wax does good things for the world or whatever. But, you know, when people sit down and get really clear about, this is what I want my life to look like, this is how my business relates to that, this is why I care, this is why I'm doing this in the first place, like, you could make money any number of ways. And that's great. If you're somebody who wants to go make money selling used cars or whatever, no shade to you, super. But that doesn't light me up. It doesn't, there are lots of ways I could make money that don't excite me. And what really excites me is working with people, helping them build their business that they love. Because everyone I work with also wants to help other people in some way with their business, whether that's like life coaching, or I work with a holistic vet, or people who design quilts, for example. I work with people who design craft things. They still feel passionately that it helps people. So when you're really in touch with why you're doing what you're doing and what your goals are, then you have a better sense of like how you can measure if you're approaching that goal, at that goal, reaching that goal. And it's probably not the number of likes on a post.
Yeah. I love the fact that you get your people to write a manifesto, and you heard it here first, everyone, right? She's going to do another book. We're going to get the brand manifesto book. I like it.
Now I'm on the hook.
You're on the hook. Sign me up. Put me on the pre-read list. I want to know all about it. But you bring up something I think which is important, that no matter what size business you're building, no matter what size your brand is now, whether you're a solopreneur making quilts in your guest room or whether you're building a global brand, this idea of setting tangible, measurable goals, but combined with the why we exist manifesto, like you said, keeps people on track, right? So when we are inundated with opportunities, do I spend my time, energy, effort on social media? Do I do a lot of social media? Do I do other initiatives? We have now this filter of what we're trying to accomplish. It reminds me, I was doing some work recently for Mattel, a small brand you may have heard of.
I've never heard of them.
A couple people, I think they have something with cars and dolls. But even they, in all of their creative briefs, in all of their briefs, they have a section in there that grounds people in what do we stand for. And I was lucky enough to hear their CMO speak at a conference I was presenting at. And he highlighted the fact that when the world shut down, even during COVID, right, during lockdown, one of the things that they had to touch base on was what they stand for, right? It wasn't just about, oh, shoot, our toy sales are down. What do we truly stand for and why do we exist? And that was the guiding light for them in terms of how they then pursued new initiatives, new product design, new communications, their social presence during a very challenging time for their core audience that was now home with these children. So I think you bring up a really core point of before we start worrying about KPIs and
Yeah.
metrics and numbers, let's really ground ourselves in success.
Yeah, actually, my SOPs all have a why are we doing this and what does success look like? And the definition of success, it can be like the right person got the right email, but it usually goes beyond that to like why that's important. And so I feel like I almost have these like mini manifestos throughout my business.
No, but I love that too, because we do need the reminder. It's not just about creating it once,
Yeah.
sticking it in a drawer and being like, that's done, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I hate a mission statement because you a lot of times they're so full of like jargon. They're so packed full of jargon that it's like a word salad. And I'm one of those people who's like completely allergic to jargon. My brain cannot handle it. I sometimes I've read like a job offer and it says like synergizing the strategic and whatever it says, like a word salad of jargon. And I'm like, I literally don't know what this job is. I don't know what they do. I don't know what this job is. I don't know if I would be the right fit for this. I'm completely allergic to it. So I really want people to sit down and write something that's really fiery, that they're almost embarrassed. Like the manifesto is for you. You don't have to share it with anybody. Or there can be pieces that you want to share with people. But usually, if you've done a good job on your manifesto, there are pieces of it that are really embarrassing, like your like goals that are more daring than you're willing to speak out loud. I want to be on Oprah or whatever. Yeah. And as soon as you've done that, it not only does it like really align you with your goals and how you can measure them, but it also aligns you with, honestly, it helps a lot with content because you can look at that manifesto, you can look at the things that you're saying, and you can pick out messages in there that will have a really strong point of view and make you stand out from other people.
Yeah. Now, I hope everyone is taking notes, right? You all, wherever you're watching or listening, it's better have your sticky notes out. So I want full sticky notes at the end of this episode because Kate is giving you some incredible gold nuggets here. But I want to take the next step.
Okay.
So if people actually do take our advice, take the sticky notes out, write the manifesto, get clear from the start, eventually we actually have to do the thing. So I know this is something that you do get into the book. So let's dig into the doing it. Because I know one of the things I love about your approach and the way that you work with your people, okay, is you help people deal with jobs in their business, whether it's social media or other things that they're doing to grow their business that drive people crazy. Things that we know we have to do or we should do, but they make us miserable, they overwhelm us. So when it comes to, let's talk about social media and putting that workflow together, what are some of the tips that you have that you could share that just starts to make it feel a little less crazy and overwhelming?
So I've built a whole system that I do with people in my group program or in VIP days where you literally answer questions. And I did this in a VIP day the other day. I sat down with the person, we talked, I let her ramble and I asked her some more questions and I filled in the answers to the questions as I was hearing them. And it built her a social media plan. So if you're doing this on your own, the way to do that is to like, you can start with your manifesto and you can be like, what are the points that I really need to make? And then you can think like, all right, what does my client or customer really need to hear? And one of the things to say to people all the time, by the way, is your social media is not about you. Too often I see people's social media accounts are very like, I did this or whatever, which is great. I'm happy you did that. But what does that have to do with me? Why do I care about that? Not to be rude, but you have to really think, what does the person who's looking at this need? What do they want? And then how can I break that down into the smallest possible chunks? So then you end up with this massive list, really. You should have a massive list of all the things they need to know. And the thing I see people do a lot is I talk about, so I'm going to give you my metaphor, okay? I talk about, this is my laundry method. So if I said to you, when I pick out what I want to wear in the morning, then I pick out a shirt and I go wash it and then I put it in the dryer and then I put it on and then, oh, I don't have pants yet. So I wash those, and then I put those in the dryer, and then I put them on. And oh, I didn't put underwear on. I guess I better wash those. So, like this is how people are making their posts. And it is such a waste of time. People all the time are like, oh, what am I posting today? Crap. And then you come up with the fastest thing you can post, the easiest thing you can post. And what you end up doing is you end up cycling through the same things over and over again that are really convenient to talk about, which means you're leaving like a whole huge amount of things that you need to be talking about that you are not communicating just because it's inconvenient in the moment. So instead, I encourage people to monotask. So you want to have like your list of everything you want to talk about. And then depending who you are, like if you're a photographer, I would say fine, start with the photography and figure out like the photography that goes with each of those and then write. But most of us, or many of us, will decide to sit down and write and then create the graphic or the post. And I'm not saying you have to write 70 posts at once, but you could write 5. And as long as you're writing 5 posts, you could also be like, okay, I'm going to talk about this again later, because you should be repeating yourself, by the way, because first of all, everybody's not seeing the first post. Everybody doesn't understand or read every post, even if they see it. So you need to repeat yourself. And like people are not necessarily going to take action, even if they're interested. So you have to say it again and again. I will write several posts. My brain gets into a groove with writing. Like for me, I'm a morning writing person. Like I do my best writing in the morning. Don't ask me to string a coherent sentence together after 2:00. So write as much as you can, write variations on those things that you have in your pocket for later, then go do your graphics, and then you schedule them out. And as long as you can keep doing that at a pace where let's say you do 5 posts each time. The ideal would be you do 5 posts each time, but you like before you use those 5 posts, you're creating the next 5 posts. So then you're adding them up and adding them up and adding them up. And you're 2 posts ahead, and then you're 4 posts ahead, and then you're 6 posts ahead. And it keeps growing, like whatever the number of posts or the time period you're working with is. And obviously also, I hope it goes without saying, you need to do your photography and your video all at once. As you're writing your post, you're writing down, okay, this is going to be a live, which by the way is the fastest way to make content and people don't use it enough. This is going to be a video. So these are the shots I need for this video. These are the still pictures I need. These are the graphics I need to create. And then you're going through that list and you're trying to take those pictures, make those videos, make those graphics in a super organized way so that you're just not wasting your freaking time.
But following that process makes it realistic. Because to your point, I'm not getting dressed one piece at a time, washing each, putting it back on. But it is exactly how people are creating their social media content by and large these days, especially if you don't have a team of 200 doing it for you. So the idea here is that how can we streamline this? How can we still be audience centric? To your point, this is not about being a billboard. It's about being valuable. It's about bringing value through your content to the audience you're trying to engage, but not driving yourself crazy in the meantime.
Yeah, of course. I work with small businesses and solopreneurs a lot. So a lot of times people are dealing with the feelings they have around social media. And that's really the thing that's standing in the way. Or they're dealing with the I shoulds, because as soon as you start to look around, then you're going to find a million influencers saying you should post this many times a week. You should do this kind of post. You should, do this transition, whatever. And I'm like, ugh, who cares? Forget all that. Because most of those people are influencers making advice for other influencers, and they're spending 15 to 40 hours a week making content. And what person actually running a business has the time to be doing that? None of us have the time to be doing that. So I do think that in 2025, we have an opportunity to show up and be humans. We're living in a time of AI. I'm not saying don't use AI. I do use AI sometimes to at least create a rough draft, but we're living in a time of AI and filters and people who are fibbing about what their life or what their business is really. And you have a real opportunity to show up and connect with people. So that's what I'm always telling people to do also.
And this is different, right? If going back to setting your manifesto and setting your business, if you're big desire is to become a content creator, right? And that is your business. That's
Oh, I
different,
don't
right?
think
You
that's
better be
most of us,
creating.
but yeah, I never talk with those people.
But for to your point, for someone else who this is just one tiny little slice of all the
Yeah.
things you're doing to serve your clients, your customers, develop your business, grow your brand, grow your revenue, right? If this is just one of those things, this is
Mhm.
a very manageable, practical approach. So really
Right.
appreciate
And it's one piece of it. And for me, a lot of people find me on Instagram, for example, and then they join my mailing list. And then they message me and say, hey, I want to work with you or whatever. So I can't necessarily say Instagram is getting me sales, although it just takes a while. It's more of a long game, and it's more of an interaction and relationship building thing before like they take a step closer to me.
No, and I think it's great to remember too that there is a layering effect. Like you said, people aren't just going to find you for the first time in one place and be immediately ready to say yes. Sometimes that happens, but it's rare. So
Yeah.
this layering effect of, oh, they're seeing you show up in Instagram, they're seeing what you're saying in your emails once they're on your email list. And going back to your recommendations around, I did the brainstorm first about what I want to intentionally be communicating.
Mhm.
Now there is a layering effect because they're hearing the same thing from the different touch points that they're engaging with you
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
That's great. Amazing. I know everyone's got a full sticky note coming out of today. Thank you so much, Kate, for walking us through this. And so excited for your new book, Social Media Group Therapy. I know we're going to be including the links to connect with you, but if you are going to direct folks who are listening and watching this to one location that would be your best location to connect with you after today, where should people follow up with you?
I want to give you something. So if you're one of those people who's, crap, I really need to post something like right now, what do I post? I have a freebie called Yikes, I Should Post. And it's like a 5-minute posting guide. And it literally walks you through sitting down, coming up with a bunch of ideas really quickly, and then executing them. And you can find it at kategilbert.com/yikes.
Amazing. So wherever you're watching or listening to this, wherever you're joining us from today, we will include that link if you didn't catch it. Thank you so much, Kate. Any final parting thoughts for our listeners today?
Oh gosh. Now I'm like, oh, what's my favorite thing to tell people? If you are somebody who gets up in your head about like your social media results, then I think that you need to take a step back and ask yourself, what am I actually making this mean? What am I making it mean when I get 8 likes on a post? Am I making it mean that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, or that I can't be successful? Because really, a lot of times it's not at all logical and it's not at all true. You've just started to go down that path to the doom and gloom place. So you need to stop for a second and be like, all right, what am I making this mean about myself? And is that actually true?
Amazing. Thank you, Kate, for being the lighthouse that helps us avoid those doom and gloom rocks in our path. Amazing.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. I'm so happy to have all of you join us for this episode. I know that Kate shared her expertise with us. Please definitely follow the links to connect with her. Get your hands on that Yikes guide to posting on social media. And thank you for joining us on the Sticky Note Marketing Show. If you found value in today, comment, subscribe, share this episode with a friend who could value this information, tips, and tricks, and join us on the next episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. See you
Thank
next time.
you.